Hey team, buying your first home, so exciting. There's nothing better than the feeling that you get when you're like, this is mine. But with the wrong plan and the wrong advice, it can turn into a financial prison. Let's break down some really smart pro moves to find out how much you can really afford and how to buy smart with your future in mind. What's going on, team? I'm here trying to drop as much knowledge as possible for all my first-time home buyers out there, for any buyers that could use this information. Is 100% aimed at giving strong, sound advice, not only advice, but knowledge and transparency to make sure that folks just go into the game with a little bit more than they would have had if they didn't have the good sound advice. I want to make you strong. I want to make you clear. I want to make really, really smooth processes and try to mitigate some of those stresses that come with the buying process. So with that, let's talk about how much you can really afford. Don't forget to subscribe and like. All right, team, let's break it down. How much can you really afford? If you've followed along with me for some time, you've heard of the lender's holy trinity, all right? We talk about credit, income, assets. That's how lenders can fit you into a loan program that the bank will lend on. So when we go down this road and we start to do all these calculations, there's one big thing that we gotta understand. DTI is debt to income ratio. We take your credit report and the liabilities that are listed on it, which means those trade lines or those things like your Amazon card. That is called a trade line or a liability, and it comes with a minimum monthly requirement as a payment. Now, we take all of those items that are in your life and we stack that, add them all up, get a number, and then we take your gross monthly income, take that, divide the two, and get a ratio that's called debt to income. Whenever you're trying to buy a home, we take your new mortgage, your projected mortgage, and we add that to your current credit profile, and we add it to the DTI, and we have to, as lenders, have to make it fall in with a specific range. So let's just say we're gonna do a standard conventional, because there's other programs out there, but that's not really what this video is for. We're just gonna go with a smooth 50%. I can fit you into a conventional loan at that 50% mark. It's really 49, but again, this is for education purposes. Don't let the fact that you qualify for a loan dictate what your actual budget is going to be, all right? So a lot of emotional things come into play here. We all want the biggest and best for ourselves. We've worked, we've gone to school, we've done all these things. We're always being told what's the right thing to do, especially when we're younger and coming up. And then all of a sudden reality hits and we want to buy a house and we've got a lot of student loan debt and we've got all this, debt that we're looking at. We need a car to get to work. Well, I want a nice car. So now it's a little bit higher and my income is on the lower end because I'm just starting out, my holy trinity. And the ratio, debt to income ratio, is a little high. Now I want to go and buy a home that is equally as nice because I feel like I deserve it. And the loan officer tells me I can get into a home and I'll max out my DTI at 49. And that's what I can get approved for. So it must be good move. Wrong. And it's actually one of the better things that I get to say because it sounds the least self-serving. By the way, loan officers get paid on your loan amount. So some get loans per file and there's other pay and fee structures, but just always think like if you get $1 million home, I get paid more. And the company does it. You don't pay it out of your pocket, but that's another conversation. So think about it. I'm telling you, don't max that out. We're talking about how much can you really afford. So when we're talking about building a budget, your life goals need to be something that you consider. Where do you want to be in 5 to 10 years? And this question pains a lot of folks because they're like, I don't even know. I just want to be alive. I just want to be breathing. Like I want to have good health. I want to be in my job. I want my car to still be running on the same oil change that I gave it 5 years ago. Like I just want the real basics here, man. I want to have a beer with my buddies on the weekends. Real simple. But honestly, you got to break this down. And if you don't, you're going to be a couple steps behind. So what can you really afford? Just because the bank tells you can go up to 49.9% in your debt to income ratio, they're evaluating risk. Everything the bank does is an evaluation of a risk profile and they put a number to it. How much is it worth for me to do X? Well, Risk profile A is the lowest risk. I'll offer the best terms. Sounds very similar to like credit, right? So I'm going to get a credit card with lower interest because I've got great credit, or I'm going to get more in my credit line because I've got great history of paying back or great credit. Better terms for lower risk. Your risk profile maxes at 49.9. That is the highest they will go from a risk standpoint. So think about what I'm saying. It says if you go over 49.9, they're just stopping their risk and they're saying cutting you off. But if at 49.8, they'll take you. Do you think that means it's good for you? Hey, so maybe it is, but honestly, let's talk about what you can really afford, all right? Now, you can go to that 49.9 number, but what do you really want to do in 5 to 10 years? And I know we just talked about it. We're like, I don't know. Seriously, you want to buy a house, you either are or getting involved with somebody, or maybe you want to be involved with somebody at that point in time. Is building a family a major thing for you? But do you have that significant other right now? If you don't, the future promise is not guaranteed. Why don't you buy a more humble beginning so you can save for that ring, so you can save for your family's vacations? You can save or put money aside so you can travel and maybe meet the best quality person or partner that you can possibly find. That is called planning and called what can you actually afford. The bank does not include your lifestyle in their factor for risk. Remember, it is purely risk that the bank cares about. So when I tell you as a mortgage advisor and I tell you you can fit into this loan program, it doesn't mean it fits your lifestyle. In our initial consultations and in future consultations, I will always ask you, like, what else are you into? What do you do on the weekends for fun? Like, are you factoring in that you're going to need this? Setting your budget is what that's called, and that's important. We're going to understand your budget to understand what you can really afford. If you have a hobby where you're like painting sculptures and it only costs you $20 every 2 months to do this thing, okay, then you can take a little bit more of a risk on your home. But if you're a traveler and 3 times a year you're spending $3,000 on trips, you gotta save for that. And you don't want to max out your budget on your home, and then it limits the amount of money that you can put aside to do these traveling. You don't want to give up traveling just to have the home when you could have been smarter about your budget, all right? So I'm not telling you you can't afford it. I'm telling you, do you want to? What does that real number look like? I've talked to a bunch of different people. I've done a bunch of different research. So some of the more conservative models are around 20% of gross income. And then some are around that, like they get kind of liberal with it and they're reaching that 33, 35%. 35 is like the peak that I would say you're where you're at. However, in there is kind of a sweet spot. Now, it's not just your monthly budget for everything. It's just for the house cost, okay? And the financial sweet spot is actually that 25%. That's where most calculations fall as like the optimized number. I'm not saying it's wrong to go above or below that number. I'm just saying have a plan. First-time home buyers most of the time don't have a strong plan. So I'm trying to give you solid foundation to start from. Take whatever your proposed mortgage is when you slap it into, if you're talking to a loan advisor, they can give you the numbers. If you're on Zillow, Trulia, adjust those numbers, look at that. Whatever the housing number is, do some quick math. 25% of what you take in. So let's say you make $7,000 in the month, and we talked about it before, how you want to calculate that. If it's an annual salary, it's pretty easy, divide it by 12. If you get paid twice a month, multiply your gross pay, the highest number that's on your paycheck, not the one that's at the bottom where they said they deposited into your account, the top highest one, take that, multiply it by 24, divide it by 12, that'll give you your number. If you get paid bi-weekly, there's 26 pay periods in the year. So take it, multiply it by 26, divide it by 12, you get the hint. Now your monthly number, let's say it's 7,000, multiply it by 25%. That means that your budget should be around $1,900 a month. That's telling you what you should be paying for your house if you want to fall in that 25% sweet spot. Now, if you make more or less, you do the math accordingly. I can't emphasize this enough. I've been saying this is not dead accurate or you're 100% wrong if you go above or below. You have to use it to your benefit and you have to understand your market where you're at. So let's just say you're in a high cost area. You're in New York, Cali, Miami. You're in some of the big uglies, as the federal government likes to call it. Super expensive to live there. You might have to stretch outside of that number just because the market dictates it. But that doesn't mean you're just doing it because, oh, I have to do it. The point is to be smart about what you're planning to spend for your home. Understand that your lifestyle counts. The very first thing you need to do when you get your paycheck is to pay yourself. If you're not paying yourself first, you are pretty close to the definition of being broke. You're paying everybody else and then giving yourself the pittance. You're giving yourself the leftovers, the scraps. Think about that. If you're in that scenario, you've over-leveraged yourself, you've done something at some point in time that's made it that your decisions have dictated what you're allowed to spend, as opposed to you determine what you should spend on you, your lifestyle, your food, your gas, all those things. You've factored that and you've come up with a number that if I'm happy going out and playing darts once a week, I go and I play golf twice a week because I love golf, and I go out and I want to hang out with the boys, I want to smoke cigars on Fridays, and then I want to go out to dinner with friends, and I want to do that like 3 nights a week. You make that number and you figure it out, and that's what I'm going to pay myself. And then I tack in my bills and I figure out what I need to live or what I'm going to afford for a house, right? Factor those numbers in after that. The point is, try to be in a scenario where you're paying yourself first. You're out there making that money. You don't need to buy something like a home to go and impress somebody else, not yourself. It needs to be for you. Make it fit your budget. What can you really afford? Not what the bank tells you you can afford. Bank measures risk, not affordability. You dictate your budget. Very smart, very proactive thought process on managing your budget and your time and the way that you handle yourself financially. All right, so team, so let's talk about some of those maybe not so transparent costs that are involved with home ownership. We're first-time home buyers. We're out here. We're trying to figure out this budget. Doug's telling me I shouldn't pay attention to my loan officer because he don't know. He just wants to make a bunch of money. It's a lot, right? And then guess what? Doug's about to hit you with all the hidden fees. They're not really hidden. They just feel hidden because we're not used to paying them. Depending on where you're going to potentially live, there's going to be extra costs, okay? Now, when you look at those Zillow and Trulia and Redfin and whatever, I don't get paid by any of them, so I'm not trying to steer you one way or the other. But when you do those mortgage calculators, they always throw in 20% down, but they always give you a guesstimated range for taxes and insurance. Those two things are very, very important. And if you pay attention to them, it's very, very painful because you might be looking at, oh, I can get a $500,000 loan and it's only going to cost me $3,000. And then all of a sudden you incorporate your taxes and insurance and now you're like $4,500, $5,000. What do you mean? Like, I like the other number better. These are very, very important things to pay attention to, especially as first-time home buyers. When you're going out and looking, you want to know, are you in a high tax area? Are you in an area that is the majority of folks that are there are senior citizens and they're not paying into the schools, right? So that's going to increase tax burden for future generations. There's a lot of different things that you're going to want to pay attention to in these fees or costs. Hidden costs. They're not hidden. We just don't know about them, which is why we're here learning about them, because it's important and it's going to cost us and it's going to impact our budget and what we can really afford. You see what I did there? Yeah. So another thing is like an HOA fee. You might be looking at a townhouse or a condo, and for anybody that's out there that's very, very smart in the terminology, got it. But if you're looking at a home that requires an HOA fee, that means you are looking at an association owns the buildings and you are engaging in an agreement, an ownership agreement with that association to be in their space. Most of the time they've got like some kind of pool or playground or tennis courts or basketball, sometimes a golf course. So those HOA fees are like a membership due that does maintenance of the property. They usually cut your grass, they take care of the roof and the outside studs out, and also those fixtures that they're offering to you, like a clubhouse or a golf course or basketball courts, et cetera, et cetera. So those HOA fees are there, and that's going to be a monthly cost for you. So if you're looking at it, your lender's taking that into account and just rolling it into your monthly payment. It's something you should be paying attention to as well. Hopefully they're breaking down those costs for you so that you're very, very astutely aware as to what it actually is and what is it doing, because you're losing that money. Now, you're not paying it to nothing. You're paying it for the membership and for the right to be able to use the clubhouse and all the other things. But if none of those things are your speed and it's not something that you really like, you're putting your money into something for somebody to maintain your lawn and, fix your roof every once in a while. It's not as limited as that. They do a lot of great things, but it's something to be aware of. So the other major expense, everyone knows their cell phone bill. Everyone knows you got to do your cell phone, and everybody knows I got to get connected to Wi-Fi. We all pretty much are locked into those fees, but let's talk about gas and sewer and water. Sewer and water, I don't know, is the same thing. And then gas, how does that play? Do I have a pool on the property? Is the electric going to be nutty? Do I have gas heat? Do I have electric heat? Like, those are things that play a role, but it also adds to the costs of living. If you're going to live comfortably, right? If you grew up in an Italian household where you had 2 times of the year where the thermostat changed and it was 2 temperatures, then that was it, right? Too easy. You might not be aware that this is like a bill that your mom and dad paid, but it is a bill that you will pay to be comfortable or uncomfortable if you want to repeat your past pains or experiences, however you want to view them. Those are going to be costs that you will incur to live, all right? You will have heat in your house. You will have AC in the winter, whether it's going to be plugged into the wall, all right, and hanging out your window, or it's going to be a central AC unit. It doesn't really matter how it's given to you. It will become a cost. Now, some things are more efficient than others, and those will be cheaper. So efficiency typically means cheaper. And now cheaper just means cheaper to run. Doesn't mean that the cost to install was cheaper. So typically those bigger units cost more to get. Like, you want a central AC unit, you need a furnace, you're gonna need the whole 9 yards, condensers. So there's an upfront cost for a cheaper bill. You can plug in a wall unit for $500 and just have a more expensive electric bill for however long that you're living. Give and take, one's not completely better than the other. I would say efficiency is, where you want to be, but don't beat yourself up if you're not there. The point is, it's a cost. So what is your average bill? Go into Google. Google's your friend, all right? If you're living in the New Jersey area, you're living by the shore, what is the average heating bill for a gas home? Understand that when you go into a home, you're spending 25% about. That's going to be a cost. Now you've got your cell phone bills. Now you've got your car bills. Now you've got your insurance on your car. Now you've got your insurance on your house. Now you've got your gas and your electric for your house, right? These are all extra things, which is why it's important to hover around that 25% number, because these other things, who's cutting your grass? Are you cutting it? Or are you so busy running around and your job needs you 9 to 5, but needs you extra hours? So like, are you really cutting the grass when it come time? Don't know, but that could be another cost. So that's why it's very important to kind of lay these out. You have to understand where you are and where you want to go to understand how you should be planning your budget. So when it comes to the home, whether you're an investor or not, there's a couple different ways to kind of determine what you want to do for maintenance budget. If you're not doing it now, if you're still in the planning stages and this is just a video that you've come across and you're thinking, hey, listen, you can apply this to everything else. Like, think about your car. It needs oil every so often, depending on how much you drive. Sometimes it needs tires at certain, numbers, depending, like 50, 60 or 30 if you're, a drag racer or whatever. Same thing with your brakes. Like, all those things start to break down. You might not know what they are. Hidden costs, right? It's not hidden, it's just a maintenance cost that you're just not used to eating. So that's why these videos are designed to try to help you. Well, if you put 1% away for your car and it just kind of accumulated, whenever you needed new tires, you take it out of the fund, not what you pay yourself. That's a budgeted item. You're gonna budget maintenance. Maintenance on your home is gonna be a thing. 1% typically is a number that is used as a decent number. So some folks like to do the 1% of the home value. So let's just say your home is valued at $300,000. You're gonna need $3,000 a year for maintenance style items. Break it down, 3,000 divided by 12. And you should be putting away $250 every month into a pot so that when something happens with your house, you have the money to do it. Again, a cost, hidden cost that we don't know about. That is associated with home ownership that first-time homebuyers need to know about. All right, team, listen, the most important one that I like to talk about, and I love this topic, there's really no specific guidance about what this is. This is purely a comfort thing, but think about this. It's called your emergency fund, all right? when you're budgeting for your house, this is a hidden cost, right? You've got your maintenance, you've got your repairs, right? That is you being a sound financial person. You're creating numbers based on known factors. You know a hot water heater costs about $1,300 to install, one of those Home Depot ones with a plumber, okay? And if you do $1,300 and you divide the lifespan of that water heater, you just take that money out, put it into your, your budget and your fund. There you go. You've got a number. That is a budgeted item that you can do for maintenance. Now, Mother Nature and Murphy and whoever else that you might title this always has a say. The monkey on your back, however you want to call it, the black cloud, the black cat, the bad luck, it's always going to happen. This is where the emergency fund comes into play. You should be putting money aside into an emergency fund up to a certain amount of money. I was in a $200,000 townhouse and I had about a $7,000 buffer. Now this was 15 years ago, and those are the numbers that I used. Was it the best numbers? I don't know, kind of worked out. Now, what I use is my monthly living expenses times 3. So I like to hover somewhere between 3 and 6 months of living expenses in an emergency fund. Now that fund, you can talk to a financial advisor, you can put it in high yield savings, you can put it into the market, you can do whatever you want with it, but it's designed so the moments when you're like, oh my God, something wild just happened. It wasn't part of my budget, wasn't part of my plan. I didn't know this was gonna happen. This is something that needs to be funded by you too. You should be putting money into a certain spot till you get comfortable to whatever metric you're gonna do. There's a lot of different things out there. You can, what's your highest cost appliance, in your house? And then let's just back down 3 of them. Let's say all 3 of them went. Do you have enough money to replace all 3 of them? You need to be somewhat comfortable. So you save that pot before you start putting into like your vacation pot. So you should have this emergency fund up and operating. It's a hidden fee, right? Just one we didn't know about. I know I sound like a broken record, but listen, nothing's defined. And we all, say it's something just to try to be engaging with folks to make it seem like you got some kind of secret. It's really just life experience, all right? It just tells you something. This is a good idea. Do you have to do it? There's no such thing as no. It's yes with criteria, right? Can you just not have it? Yeah. But if something happens, you might not have the money to deal with it. So it just is what it is. All right. These are good, healthy habits to have. It all breaks down into kind of a theme in home ownership. The price of the mortgage was just admission to the game. Your maintenance and your budgets and your emergency funds, that's the cost of playing the game. That's the real maintenance fee, the real membership fee. Remember, team, banks talk about risk. And remember the thing that I said earlier, at 50% of your DTI, we talk about that triangle, credit, income, assets. Once I calculate those and figure out your DTI, right, your proposed monthly budget on a house and all your other debts, if you start to exceed 50%, the bank says you are a hard no because it's too risky. But now at 49.9, they're saying you're good, which is the difference of what? $7 a month, depending on what your profile looks like. Like that should ring an alarm for you. Be very clear. The bank measures risk. It does not measure affordability, which is why this video, how much can you really afford? I want to shine some light on some items and things that will come along with home ownership and hopefully give you something to think about. And if you have more questions, engage in the comments, definitely subscribe and like, and hopefully we can get you squared away and get you on a solid plan so that you are living the lifestyle you want to live and that you are not house broke. So avoid these things. What does homeownership really cost? All right, it costs what you plan it to cost. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and I can't wait to catch you guys out in the next one, all right? Let's get it.